Well, hello everybody. Yes, it's the middle of November and I almost forgot. Had to grab my camera and run outside to do I'm going to try to really do this quick because the air quality is so bad and we're having like hard times breathing and talking a little bit, especially in the morning. It seems like it's worse. But anyways, I just wanted to kind of go through the garden. I think, within the past 2 weeks, there hasn't been that much change, except, as you can see, I am working in the front garden. I'm slowly prepping this through, and I've talked about this. I'm going to change this. So I will have food growing in my front yard. The bottom here, and with all the wood chips, this is all blacktop and it's been covered in wood chips, so I can't plant directly in this because, again, I've always spoke about this. Right now it's just all wood chips, but it is breaking down, and I can show you in some places possibly where it broke down. But here is that fire pit that my daughter found in the trash, and this has been working really good for me. Keeps the rabbits and everything out. So if you ever have a fire pit you're not using, plant in it. I have, these 2 trays in a pot growing. This is purple mustard, which is coming up really nice. I'm not sure yet where I'm going to put this, but look at this. Let's see if I can show you this. See underneath? This is what I talk about. See the roots coming through? What's hanging? That's the feeder roots. And the feeder roots have already left the pot. And this is just some wood chips in there, basically, a little bit of native soil. And the feeder roots are leaving the pot and going in there, which is now having the plants, the baby plants, there's 3 of them in there, take off. Now, if I wanted to, I could take that pot, put it in one of the larger containers. I don't even have to do anything. It's got holes on the bottom. And just sit it there, and it will just probably flourish into a great big plant. So I'm going to decide what I'm going to do on that. I don't know if I'll separate him and put 3 different plants somewhere else. I don't know if I'll leave him here, but I probably will move him because they will get bigger. So I'll kind of decide. I only planted 3 seeds. And then, of course, my lettuce is growing. Look how beautiful that is. And some bok choy that came up from seed because there was bok choy in there. And when I planted the lettuce and threw in some baby walking onion tops, the sets, the bok choy came up. And of course, all the sets that are growing in here, I will move all those later somewhere. So let's close this up because I would not want to walk away and come back and find the squirrel inside feasting. But that's it in here. I'm slowly getting this together. I think Gary's going to take a couple of the swimming pools. He's going to set that up in his garden. This is growing. It's starting to grow some more squash and tomatoes. See the tomatoes? Can you imagine? We're in fall and we got tomatoes growing. So I got tomatoes growing here, and what I'm trying to do here, and I'll explain that in another video, is I'm trying to bring the birds in because I do have insect pests in the front yard because the birds go to my garden, which is over there, and they don't really travel that much in here. So I've been setting up feeding stations, as you could see, which brings in the seed eaters, and I've got a little water feature there, but it's too much in the open and they're not used to the front yard. I'll have to figure out where I'm going to put it. I might even put a tree. I've got some fig trees in a pot and stick it next to them so it gives them some place to land and then go into the water feature. So I'll see. Like I said, it's been a tough week just in general with not the good news on TV and everything running and smoke in the air. And it's the time of the year where I'm kind of slow with my garden until after Christmas, so we'll see what happens. But I'm going to change things around and keep going, and I'm getting my containers through here all prepped with leaves from the garden, wood chips, shredded paper, from the house, and just slowly putting it in until I'm ready to plant in there. Going to move the red vein sorrel, I think, from there because I moved one in there that was small. And that one, I'll walk over there real quick. Just by moving it in here, it was just a small one, it's really taken off. And I'm going to leave that in the pot and just leave it there. And the feeder roots will go inside the compost. So I'm going to just leave that there. That's just, some seed that got in there that's growing. And that's okay. I'll just take a shovel or put something on top of it. Like nothing's planted in here yet. But I am going to leave the sorrel in the pot probably. Gee, that's a pretty pot. Who knows? Maybe I'll take it out of the pot because it's a nice pot that I can sit somewhere. But anyways, I'm going to pull, let's walk down here, this red vein sorrel out because it's in a brick, it's struggling. And if I pull that out when I have a chance and put it somewhere else, I think it will do much better. And a lot of my sorrel is like I think it's almost 3 years old, some of them. So they must last a really long time. I am going to leave garlic chives and different things and walking onions growing in the bricks. So they're doing quite well. I just have to cover them because there were rabbits getting to them. But all in all, they're doing okay. Oh, my tomato plant's starting to die back. This isn't going to be a winter plant, but that's okay. I'll let it do its thing. It's still throwing some tomatoes. And when I'm ready, I'll either cut it back or I'll re-string it up and see what it looks like. I've got basil, struggling with the weather because it's been cooler at night. So we'll see. It needs to be cleaned up, and then there's an old celery back here that went to seed. But I will clean it up. And then, of course, I've got my stevia, one stevia plant here that went to seed. I should collect the seed. And then peppermint growing in here. And that fig tree that I did propagate myself, I took a branch off a really good fig tree, stuck it in a little pot. See a little tiny pot? Now the roots have left, but fig trees are easy to move. Just pull it and move it. I'm thinking of putting that in the big pot and moving it somewhere. I've got some ideas. Okay, let me swing you around. Here is my famous table that's got the ginger and the turmeric and of course my stevia, which is all gone to seed, and I've showed you the seeds. There's the seeds. I'll have that growing in there. I'm gonna just let it do its thing. I'm still removing stevia leaves, and I do have to get some in the freezer for the winter because I mix that in with my mint and make mint tea, and I've been really slow, and I can tell on my hands that I haven't made mint tea for a few days. So I got to get mint tea, but I mix that in with our mint tea. So that's our stevia, and then of course my turmeric thing is starting to dry up, and the ginger as well. So I want to harvest a lot of that and then replant back what I want to plant back for the spring. And I will do a video on that to show you how I do that. This pot, look at how small that pot is, and it's full. This one is just full of turmeric. So we'll get that together soon. You can harvest ginger and turmeric anytime you want. I could wait till the plant starts to die back a little bit, or I could do it now. You could harvest it. Let's say you're making something and you need some ginger. You could just go out there and cut off what you need and just do it that way. So there's different ways of growing ginger. All right, so let's go into the main yard now. Okay, as we go through the gate here that keeps nothing out. Gary made me this roll gate. The only thing, I don't know what it keeps out because the rabbits go through it and everything. All right, so, wow, I'm really sorry. The air quality is super bad right now. I have a giant tomato plant in this container growing, as you can see, and this one just loves this weather. This is the brown berry. See it? They're kind of an orange. I guess because they don't get really bright orange, and it goes from green, and then they get an orange tint. So they call them brown berry. I definitely will be growing these from now on because they do really, really well. And that's what you want to do. You want to test a bunch of different plants, and whatever does well is what you want to grow. You don't want to fight to get something to grow if it doesn't do well in your yard. So I tested with a lot of different ones, and the midnight snack did well, but the brown berry does really good. I've got a place in the yard here where it grew behind the fence. I didn't even know, and Gary said he hangs back there and pulls a lot of the brown berries off because it just went through the fence and it's growing all over like a weed. So that will be a plant I will keep. And that's, like I said, that's what you want to do. Test a lot of plants if you've got a big enough garden. See what grows really well. I mean, if it's something you're trying to grow or you don't want to grow and it just wants to grow and it's just so vigorous, that's the plant you want to grow. If you've got something you're fighting with, you don't need to bother with that. But on the other hand, if there's something you really want to grow and it's something you're determined to grow, then of course, figure out a way to do it and grow it. It's basically, I'm not saying to grow something or not to grow something, but you know, there's times you're determined you want something. So no matter what, you're willing to put the effort out. And of course you want to grow that. So with that, right now, I am definitely going to be growing the brownberry because this thing just goes and goes and goes, and it's full. The whole plant is just full of tomatoes, and we pick them all day and walk through the garden and eat them. Okay, that's probably a collard, but it could be a cross between a collard and a sprouting broccoli. Some of the other plants have died back. Celery's growing. There's oregano back there under the cage, so the main plant cannot get chewed by the rabbit because there's that cage there, but it grows through the cage, so it works out really good. And of course, this is my Dinosaur Kale that is now, I would say this spring will be 4 years old, and it just keeps going. Look how big it is. I have no reason to pull it out. People say, oh, you pull it out and you plant new. Look at the size of the trunk. There's multiple plants like that. Even when they break, it's such a vigorous plant that even if it got so heavy and broke, which it did, it just keeps going. So, and you can break off branches and grow them too. So no, I am not pulling out anything. I like keeping my garden really simple, and if it's growing like that, it's got a good root system, which means it's pulling up all kinds of minerals. So I have no reason to pull it out. Those are in the ground, the Dinosaur Kale. As you can see, they're in the ground. I've got a couple planted in the bricks, but of course their roots left the bricks and went straight into the ground. See, here's a cutting that I stuck in here. Look how beautiful the leaves are. Just a big branch broke off, stuck it in there, and it just keeps growing. That's how easy it is to grow Dinosaur Kale here. Then, of course, I've got the papaya that came up in the compost, so I probably will leave that. We'll see what happens. We've got popolo. That will probably be gone in the next few weeks because it doesn't do good when the weather gets cool at night. It likes the warm weather. Curly kale back there, lemon verbena. On the ground, we've got, of course, mint and walking onions everywhere. And there is a dragon fruit plant that comes through here. And we got 1 or 2 dragon fruits off, but I don't think we got any this year. There still might be some on there. I'm not sure. All right, let me swing you around. Okay, the tomatillos are pretty much done. I should collect these little things and just drop them around later, and then they will just grow on their own. The green sorrel never really did much, my strawberry spinach. So we'll see what happens with that, but it's still alive. Okay, celery, more popolo came up there. And look at that. I've got a can of walking onions. See? Can of walking onions. Isn't that fun? We'll do that another time. I have a lot to discuss on that. And then, of course, some red peppers. Those are hot. You know what? I am starting to use them. What I'm doing is picking the whole pepper and dropping it in a chopper with other vegetables, and then it's in our food, and I don't have to handle it that much. A little strawberry tower I just sat there a couple months ago, I guess, and that's it. And then, of course, my lemon verbena, some purple Russian kale growing in there. This is just seed. This is celery seed. The birds have been eating it, and it's a very fine seed. That's why I have celery grow all over. And that's another reason I have celery grow all over. This is sprouting broccoli. This was a plant that was growing on my deck in a little pot, and I moved it out here, and it is doing really well. That's what's nice about it, is you can cut off the little spears and use them for stir fry, but you know what we do? We tend to eat it raw. We just snap them off and eat them as we're working the garden. Got some orange baby bells down there growing. I'm starting to set that up. I'm working with that, so there's not much in there. And then, of course, another Dinosaur Kale. I think I stuck that in there. Wrapped that with tulle because something was climbing up it. Could have been slugs at night or snails, and that stopped that. Just wrapping it with tulle on the trunk. See? I want to see if I can do this quick. Just today because it's so hard to breathe out here. Okay, and then mushroom plants. They both have a mushroom plant. There's one in a pot in there, and there's one there. All right, let's swing back around. Oh, no. Let's do this. I just bought this. I got this at Sprouts. I went shopping yesterday, and it's lemon balm, and I don't have that. I don't know too much about it, so hopefully I will soon. And what I'm doing is hardening it up. In other words, I'm keeping it in the house at night and bringing it out during the day. And in a few days, or another week, when I think it's doing really well and it continues to look this good, then I'll find a place probably up against the wall of the house so it stays a little bit warm, and then I'll leave it outside and decide how I want to plant it. All I know is it's in the mint family, and boy, does it smell good. And I love my lemon verbena, so I think lemon balm would be really good to add to make tea and different things. Okay, let me back up. All right, let's see. We've got more mint all over the ground. Of course, kale going all over. I've got a squash I forgot to bring in down there. We did a harvest recently, and we harvest as we need, actually. And then tomatoes. I love these tomatoes. They are growing so well, and it's just getting so big. This will be another tomato plant that I will continue, hopefully, to grow here. Look at that. They are just beautiful. Easy to slice and eat and everything. I just have to clean it up a little bit. But I use my masking tape to hold the tomato plant up and keep bringing it up. You can use pipe cleaner. I'll tell you something. I started using pipe cleaner with the tape, and I'm not real thrilled with it. It's probably okay to put it up high like this, but I had some pipe cleaner closer to the ground and it literally crumbled in pieces. And I don't want a bunch of little pieces of metal in my garden, so I probably will not use pipe cleaner anymore. I like the paper tape. If I have to, paper tape, masking tape. If I have to, you could use paper tape, but that's too expensive. That's another tape. If I have to, I just come back and add a little bit more, see? Because once you use the masking tape, and it lasts, let me tell you, I've got masking tape in my garden that's months and months old. The plant redirects itself. So it will redirect itself up, and then it's not fighting the tape. It's kind of like leaning on the tape. It works really well. I'm really, really happy with it. Okay, let me keep going because I want to keep this short. More dinosaur kale. Like I said, I can break pieces off and just stick them in pots and different things, and they grow. That is my purple sprouting broccoli that never sprouted purple broccoli, but I use the leaves. I use it for cooking. I use it for my green drinks. I use it. It tastes good. Strawberry tower, we'll see what we'll do with that in the spring. Ugh, strawberry mint sure smells good. That's all I can say. And then, of course, I've got my orange mint. My orange mint is all over the ground. See how it's dying back? That's what it does in the fall and the winter. It will come back vigorously in the spring as it warms up, but right now it's going to die back. And I've been using more spearmint, chocolate mint, and peppermint for making tea. So I haven't really used a whole lot of orange mint. Orange mint I'll put in my green drinks, and maybe if I'm making omelets, I'll use orange mint. Otherwise, I don't use that much. Oh, I think I've got some cuttings in here from plants I put in here, and I covered it so nothing will bother it. I've got some walking onions in here. I just used a trash can I picked up at the thrift store on top of that. And let me see, I can take this off for a minute and then I come back. Oh, I took some tree collard. That's what it is, because tree collard, you want to take cuttings from it because, well, mine hasn't gone to seed yet anyways, but it's not true when it goes to seed. So I took a cutting, and that's been quite a while. It's doing really good. So let's see what happens with that. Okay, and then I've got my field of sprouting broccoli. You have all seen that. And it is just going and going and going. And look at that. We get broccoli all over. The whole thing's got broccoli. And I love sprouting broccoli. I would like to grow more. I probably will. Look at all of it back here. See all the broccoli back there? And then I did let some go to flower. And the flower brings the bees. And you want the bees and the birds a little bit, so you do want to let some of it go to seed. And if I probably won't collect the seeds, because when I collect it, that's what I end up with. I end up with something because of the collard that goes to seed, even though the collard has not gone to seed right now. So it might be a good time to collect it now. Right now, the only thing going to seed is the sprouting broccoli, so it might be true. But they tend to kind of look like a collard when I plant them. I don't even plant them. They come up on their own. And they don't really grow a lot of broccoli. Some will and some won't. I'm trying to see if I can see in the Moringa tree. Okay, I'm not sure. All the birds are moving around so much. We've got a little one-legged bird that lives here. And I see him a lot. So He just hangs around here, and he found out this is a haven for him. And he's got one leg, but he gets along really good. I see him eating and doing his thing. Anyways, going back to this, so we'll see. I might plant some more sprouting broccoli itself. I actually still have the seeds I bought quite a few years ago, and I should be able to grow some more because I've kept them in a nice container, and seeds can last for many, many years. All right, so let's see. Collard growing here. Sad looking tomato. So we'll see how that grows. And again, this was, I thought, a hybrid, but it's doing quite well as throwing broccoli. So like I said, it's kind of a hit and miss when you grow them from seed. These I did not plant here. So see how that one looks more like a collard, but the leaves are long, unlike the round collard. And then this one was kind of odd in the beginning, and now it's growing broccoli. So it is hit and miss on the seeds, and it's fine. It's all food. It doesn't matter. The leaves are good. So I definitely will keep that. Here's my purple, what's it called? Blue Dazzling Kale. Boy, it grows like a tree. Look at the trunk on it. This is where I did a video where I composted in the ground. You know how I compost in place in my tubs? Well, I dug a hole right under this pot, dumped all kinds of kitchen scraps there, covered it with some native soil or wood chips, whatever came out of the hole, and then I stuck a pot on top. And boy, this little tiny plant just took off. And that plant is in the ground, but it fed right away from the hole that was next to it where I was composting in place. So if you've got a garden, you definitely can compost in place. In the ground, you don't have to have a container. I just like doing both. So that's what I do. I do both, and so does Gary. And then the tomato plant is dying back as the weather gets cold. This is a giant tomato. I am not sure. I had Aniswa a while ago, and I don't believe this is that tomato. That was a tomato, I think it's called, common name might be pineapple tomato, but I'm not sure. Because when you cut it open, it's like all different colors, orange, red, green. Really good tasting, very mild. Gary loves it. But this one came up from seed. This is one I've done videos on where I staked it up in the spring. So what I might do is just leave it alone, let it do its thing. It's still throwing tomatoes, and we're still harvesting tomatoes off of it. And then maybe in the spring I'll come back and clean it up and see what's left of it, because it might come up from the bottom, see? Because the main plant is down on the bottom. And if it's, viable and it doesn't die completely, it will send all new shoots up, and then I will end up with more tomatoes growing. And the plant can just keep on going. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's see, curry plant. I have yet to use this. Curry plant. It was such a tiny plant, it was like my lemon balm. I bought it because it was different. Smells interesting. It probably tastes good. I just haven't, it's just, I liked it. I put it in there. It's still in the pot, but the pot, sent its roots out, and now it's a great big bush in these containers. Sometimes people ask me what these containers are. Years ago, a pet store, years ago, 10, 15, I can't remember how many years ago, a pet store got rid of all their they had a grooming room, and somebody called me and told me they're ditching everything. They piled them all out by the dumpster. So Gary went down and got them all. And that's what these are. So these are the containers or the kennels they use. That's why they're all different sizes, see? For different sized dogs, they're like a fiberglass in a way. I don't even know what they're made of, but they used them to keep the dogs in while they were grooming. And so Gary brought them home, ditched all the doors. Actually, we use the metal doors sometimes to cover things, but ditched the doors and ended up drilling holes on the bottom. And this is what I've been growing in for the past 3 years or so. Okay, let me back up. So now you know what those are. Here's my containers. Look at my pepino. It's coming back to life. It's growing all kinds of flowers. The plant is doing really good. Yes. That is a avocado plant that came up from the compost in there. And of course, this, I believe, is a cross between a collard and sprouting broccoli. See how long the leaves are? I'll show you. The collard leaves are really, really round. But everything's doing good in there, and I've got some walking onions in there. So it's doing good, and I love my containers. I've got a lot of videos on that. And then again, this one came up from seed as well. probably a cross between a sprouting broccoli and collard, and I've got celery growing all through here. I don't remember if that's a turnip. I should just pick it and eat it. Tomatoes growing here. What are these? Brown berries. Yeah, that doesn't look so much like it says brown berry on it. Oh, wait a minute. That one's brown berry, but some are coming from the bottom, so I'll have to double check that. But it says brown berry on it. I did also take some cuttings of tomatoes I liked, and I just shove them in there and they grow, and so sometimes I don't know what I'm growing there. But that says brown berry, so we'll see. Then again, this was a hybrid. This came up, I've showed this before. Leaves a little bit bigger than your average sprouting broccoli, but it's doing really, really well. And see, we get a lot of broccoli off of it. Came up from seed in here. It looks like a little tree. And you know what? As long as it gives me food, it can stay. Now we'll go over here. Let's see, we've done this. Yes, the papaya, the pot's breaking. We're leaving the papaya. And again, this is just tomatoes. There's a tomato growing in there, a tomato in there. I've already talked about this. The whole ground here is covered in spearmint. This is spearmint. This is Gary's favorite. And though it looks really good, and it is growing good, the leaves are getting smaller and the plant's starting to change as the weather's changing. But it's still perfect. We're still using it for tea. How much of the plant will stay during winter, I don't know if it'll all die back. But it gets really tall in the summer, and it is starting to die back. I don't know if you can tell, but see how small the leaves are, and they're kind of leggy. See how the plant is kind of leggy? Hey. So we'll see. Either way, it doesn't matter. It still makes perfect tea. Then, of course, back here, that's collard. Look how big that is. It's like a field of collard. I can't even understand that. I can't get in there. I can only climb back there and pick leaves, which I do. But I'm not sure if it's in a pot or in the ground anymore, that collard. It just got so big. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Let it keep doing its thing. Less work for me. It grows and it works perfect for me. But look how big it is. There is some garlic chives coming up. You can see the seeds coming up from the top. And I do have to collect some more seeds. And then, of course, here's more of the blue Dazzling kale. And look at this. Let's see if I can show you down here. See, I tiered it in this container. I've got multiple tiers. A bigger one, a medium one, and a smaller one on the top. And two of these came up. I guess I must have put them in when they were tiny. See, it's sending out side shoots, which I could cut off and transplant. But look how big it is. I just have to clean it up. Got to get out here and clean up the garden. And that's the brownberry field in the back there. I planted a brownberry, and it's going through behind the wall. And Gary goes behind the wall, and he said he picks berries, brownberries. Those are tomatoes all day. Look at my tree collard. I've got, what do I have here? I think I've got 3 tree collards here. There's one, and these I bought, and they were tiny. That one is in the ground. Let me swing over here. There's another one back there. And then my big one that's in a pot. So you would think, oh, they're going to grow better in the ground. Not necessarily. I'll get to that one in a minute. Look at the eggplant. I have started to leave some eggplant out for the rabbits and some of the animals. I don't know. I guess with all the fires going, even though the fires aren't here, I just feel for the animals. And so I decided to leave some out. And see what they did last night? This one's a yellow one, so I'm not going to eat the yellow ones. I don't think we're going to have so many yellow eggplants anymore because they came up with a really easy way of cooking them. And it's working out beautiful, and Gary loves it. So now I've been making eggplant a lot, and I stripped this down yesterday of a lot of eggplant. And there's still eggplant back there. And you can see eggplant over here. So I have been actually picking them. Hopefully before the squirrels get them, because I actually saw a squirrel trying to pick one the other day. So it's real simple. I just bring them in, wash them, slice them up like, big rings. And then I have to cover them in salt. Just dust them with salt. Let them sit for about 30 minutes, and then it leaches out the water that's inside. They're full of water. There's something in the water of eggplant that bothers me. But when I leach them with salt, it doesn't bother me at all. It's very strange. It doesn't bother Gary at all, but it does bother me. So all I have to do is leave them in a bowl with the salt, and then come back in about 30 minutes and literally wash it with water. You would think it just would rehydrate, but it's not a sponge. Wash that all off, take all the water, wash it off, and then I just brush it with olive oil with a little taco sauce and I grill it. Oh my gosh, is that good? It's even easier than oven frying it. And we've been eating tons of it. Okay, maybe I'll try to do a video on how I do that exactly. This is a tree collard. Look at this. And where is it? In a pot. See the pot? Now those roots have left, you know, and they're gone. They're in the ground. And that's perfect. But look at it, and I do have to make sure I stake it because it's just so big. I don't want it to blow over in a wind or something and snap. But my gosh, the leaves are massive. Look at the shape of these leaves. It's massive. And they have a sweeter taste than regular collard. So I really encourage people to get it. Even if you don't have a lot of room, it will grow in a little pot. And if you had to, you could compost right next to it. Dig a small hole and put some kitchen scraps and leaves in it and cover it back up. It just grows so nice. See, this is regular. Let me show you regular collard. See, this is regular collard. See how the leaves are flatter and they're rounder? Well, this is more, I'm going to say bitter, but of course everybody's going to say, oh, you have to pick them when they're small, the leaves. And I know that. But see, the leaves are different. And I use these for composting. I use these for my green drinks. So we use the collard now for that. I don't cook a lot of collard, and I really should. But really impressed with the tree collard. I am impressed. And then look at the purple one next to it. Some sort of purple kale that's growing like a tree. Starting to send side shoots up. There's my other one back there. See, that one's in the ground. That tree collard's in the ground. And it's short. And this tree collard is bigger. And sometimes I wonder if when we had the heat, this one got the water. That one you'd water the ground. And I don't know where the water went. Hopefully it went down to the roots, but I don't know that. And then of course I do have the tubs there that did help that plant, where that one is smaller back there, which is just in the ground. So the tubs, my compost tubs, does help. But with this, when I come through, even on the hottest days, and I water that plant, I know that plant is getting the water. Even though it may run through the bottom of the pot and take off somewhere, that plant is getting the water. So I think that really helped it by having it in a pot. And that pot does have holes. Somebody asked me, do you put holes? There's always holes in my pots. All pots need drainage. It just depends on whether you're going to put them on the side, an inch up, or on the bottom. That is on the bottom. And then of course garlic chives back there. That's that field of green. That's in the ground. That just came up from seed. And there's that little solar water fountain that I put together with a candlestick. And the birds go in there and everything. All right, in here, that's that 3-tier, and that's growing, I don't know, it's got purple basil growing. That I bought also at the store, and I never took it out of its pot. It's in here, and you can't see it, but it's in there in the tiny pot, but the roots have left the pot, of course, so it grows in the compost bin, and it's just massive. It goes all the way around. Big, big plant. And of course, tomatoes and beans growing in there. This is purple sprouting broccoli, like I said, and so is this one. Purple sprouting broccoli. Yeah, it's a little small, but it's never grown broccoli. But again, the leaves are perfectly good to eat, so it doesn't bother me. There's a bunch of stuff in there. I can't remember offhand what's in there. I see garlic chives, and there's walking onions, I believe, in there, and there's tomato plants you can see in there. There's still tomatoes, and then we've got the little teardrop tomatoes. I don't see any. They might be done. I like that plant. Okay, let's keep going. I said I was going to keep this short, and I think I lied. Look how big the leaves are on the collard. They're like elephant ears. This one was in a pot. See if I can get you in here. See, there's the pot, but it broke the pot. And it's now in the ground, and it's a field. See, and I don't want to take it out. It just grew. See how the directions it went? It's one plant sent out like, just snaked out everywhere. All these different trunks, and it's just going everywhere, and it's created its own field, which I think the one down there did, the smaller field. It just must have left a pot, must have been in a pot, and just snaked out. See, can you see that in there? Isn't that amazing? Now, some of them on the bottom, you can see the leaves are chewed because the rabbits just love this. They can hang out here. No hawks are going to see them. No owls at night are going to see them. They hang out there. They eat from the bottom, and then on top it grows. It's fine. There's more color than I'll ever need. course, here is celery, and flat leaf parsley is growing in here. This is flat leaf parsley and celery. More celery and more of that purple curly kale. Okay, celery's going to seed everywhere. See, this one, not doing good, but it's getting taller and taller, and it's growing side shoots. Being that the plant's not doing that great, and it could change. I haven't composted in here, so it might need a little more nutrition, even some compost tea I should make. I could always start snapping off any of these. Just break it off and stick that in a pot, the whole thing, and it will just take off and grow into a big plant. That's how good dinosaur kale grows. And then, of course, there is that papaya tree that came up, what, in the spring? This is like not a year old, and look at the size of the papayas. Is that amazing? I don't know what's going to be, but it is in the compost bin. It grew in there. We did cut the bottom so it can easily let its roots go. See it came up in a little pot, and it broke that pot. But now we let the roots grow, and I'm looking in here now because I haven't looked in here in a couple weeks, and I'm going to have to top that with wood chips. So I think I'm going to put about 3 inches or 4 inches of wood chips in there, and I've got to get a lot of these smaller ones out because the small ones are not going to make it. There's like 20 little papaya trees in there. I've moved one, and I know they're not trees, but that's what I call them. I moved one. I just soaked it and pulled it out, and I moved it, and it's doing okay. So I'll get a few more out as soon as I find the time, and get some of the small ones moved, and then I'll leave the 3 bigger ones for sure, but it's really 2 big ones, and then there's actually, see, the one in the back is not that big. It probably won't make it, but I don't know. We'll see. But I'm just amazed. I don't want to put the camera in the sun. You wouldn't be able to see, but I am amazed that both of them, such young trees, young plants, have so much in papaya's fruits already on it. So I will have to continue to compost in place in there because papayas are heavy feeders. I also have this bin that really doesn't have anything in there except for this old red Swiss Chard. See, it's really old and it's gone to seed. It's all full of seeds, so I put all its energy into seeds. What I should do is heavily compost in there because this one already sent the roots in the ground. So if I compost a lot of kitchen scraps and leaves and stuff in there, which I really, as I tell you, I better do as I say, compost in there, it will feed this plant. Because you don't have to do it in the same container. As long as the roots have left, you can do it right next to it. So I've got to get that done. And then, of course, garlic chives, they come up everywhere, and these bins are kind of pretty much done. We had Korean melons, but see, they're done. They don't grow this time of the year, really. I have one on the deck growing still. And this one just finished, took the last melon off the other day. And then, of course, my moringa, look at it. It's put all its energy into seed pods. There's like 100 or 200 seed pods all over this thing. But it's now starting to throw leaves again. So the leaves are coming back. So all its energy went into pods. And we're leaving them, and as they start to look like they're ripening the pods, we'll get them off, and maybe we'll offer some seeds in the spring. Because that's the best time to grow it, is in the spring, not in the winter. All right, tomatoes. I've got the tomatoes still growing. Hopefully they'll continue. Again, these are little tiny tomatoes. They came up from seed, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but regardless, they're doing so well. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tomatoes. Look at that. They're all through there. We eat the tomatoes all day. So you want to do cuttings off that. I can collect some of the seeds off the tomatoes. That's perfectly fine, but it may not be 100%. That's the thing. Remember with your leaves, just crush them up and put them back in the ground. You don't even have to do anything if you don't want to. Put them back in the ground. They become soil. So anyways, I'm going to do some cuttings on that. The cuttings themselves right now, if I stick them in pots, will probably not do anything. They'll just sit there dormant. They shouldn't die, but they'll sit there dormant. But in the spring, cuttings will just take off. All of a sudden, they have their roots set already, and they get that burst of energy, and they take off. So this is a good time to do cuttings. I actually have plants growing in my south-facing kitchen window. I'm growing garlic chives in there. I'm sorry, not garlic chives. Walking onions are growing in there. I've actually harvested them off the kitchen window to use for dinner. And I've got tomatoes growing in there and peppers growing in there. I even have stevia that came up in my kitchen window. So you could start a lot of stuff. during the fall and winter. And don't worry if it looks stunted and it's not growing, because once you put it out in the spring, baby it a little bit, and then they should just take off. So you'll be ahead and have plants for the spring. Okay, here, see, this is a cutting I did off that plant. I just took a piece of cutting, and it's going to sit probably like this and do nothing. Should trim that off here. And it won't do anything. And then come spring, it should just take off. And that's, that's what you want to do. So don't worry about it now. It's not going to grow now. If it was a massive plant, and of course had a massive root system, maybe you would get tomatoes, but that one's developing roots. So let it do its root thing and come back in the spring. This is some squash that's trying to grow, but again, wrong time of the year. We're down at like 50 at night, and that's just too cool. And this is that Moringa tree that was chewed to the bottom by a rabbit, and it's come back. So we'll see how this does. Okay, now let's go through the gate. Now we're going to go through the gate. Look at that. I can't get over this. Tomatoes everywhere on this plant. It grows on both sides. And the only reason it's not loaded and red right now is because I came out here last night, ate a bunch, and then Gary walked through here and ate a bunch. Look at those pods off that Moringa tree. Isn't that amazing? So that's my garden. Well, it's our garden, but I take care of that, and the orange trees are there. Okay, the rosemary. I got that years ago at the 99-cent store. I walked in one day after the holidays, and they get odd things in, and they had these pots that were full. Like one pot would have a rosemary and some other plants in there for $1. And I brought it home, and I've got massive rosemary now, all growing from a pot I bought with a bunch of plants in it once at the 99-cent store. All right, there's a bucket. Just, I had a squash in that, I think, a year or two ago, and I left the bucket there. It's buried in the ground, and celery's been growing in it. I haven't done anything with it. And then, of course, mint. But I'm going to change a lot of this out here. I think I'm going to make this here a field of papayas. See, there's one of those papayas I just yanked out of that tub that we just saw, where it's got the new papayas that were growing in there. Just yanked it right out, planted it there. I dug a hole, put a bunch of kitchen scraps in there. I cut most of the bottom out of that pot, filled it with wood chips and native soil, and planted that papaya. And look at that. Now, it's not going to do anything. It may sit here for, all through fall and winter and do nothing, because now it's got to grow a root system, since there wasn't much of a root system when I picked it and planted it. So the first thing any plant wants to do is grow a root system. As long as the plant is green and showing some sort of growth to it, like it's green. And this one had no leaves. I only left a few leaves on the top. Look at the new growth. I know that plant is doing okay. It wants to grow a root system, and it needs that. That's the central nervous system of the whole plant. So let it do its thing, and then later on it should turn out just as big as these other papayas. So don't worry about it. As long as it's alive, as long as it's green, that's the way it's supposed to be. There's that other rosemary. You know what's really odd about those? I really should set a camera up. Haven't seen it lately. See how they're kind of flat in the center? I don't know if you can see that there, but what we believe happens at night is I think the coyotes come in there and they roll in the rosemary. It probably helps them get rid of some fleas and ticks or something. It smells good, but they do it to both of them, and will come out sometimes, and the center will be like concaved in, and I do believe they go in there and roll. I could say the rabbits probably do it, but it's too big for rabbits a lot of times. So I do think it is the coyotes doing that. I mean, it could be possums, it could be skunks, but I do believe it is the coyotes doing that, which is interesting. All right, these are the papayas. Don't have to really stick on this too long, because I've got multiple videos on how we grow them, how we harvest them, how we plant them, or they plant themselves. They are doing fantastic. The only thing I always emphasize is compost, 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 kitchen scraps, rotting leaves, their own leaves. They are heavy feeders. If you don't feed the papaya plants, they won't feed you. They'll look pretty, but that's the way it is. So you've got to feed them so they will feed you. Hasn't gone dormant yet, but that's a pomegranate tree I planted from a seedling. And then here's another papaya. See this one? Even this one is kind of growing slow. It's leaning away from the other one. And that's perfectly fine. Doesn't bother me, let it do its own thing. Same thing here, you've got to feed your papayas. Got a whole video on this one, that this one grew and grew and grew, but we never got any papayas. They never set. As soon as I got the compost bins in here and started feeding it, we have gotten a whole bunch of papayas off of this plant. Now that's the main thing you've got to remember is food. You feed them, they'll feed you. And there's a sad little rosemary. Probably doesn't get as much water as the other ones, but that's okay. And this is that cactus that I picked up on the side of the road. This will be the last cactus I pick up on the side of the road. I was so excited. I picked a leaf up, one little leaf, brought it home, stuck in the ground. Look how big it got. I think it's been 2 years now. Saw another cactus on the side of the road, picked it up. Oh my gosh, that one was full of thorns. This one didn't have any thorns. Dropped it, came home, had to pull all the thorns out of my hand. So be careful what you pick up. You can just keep plastic bags or gloves in the car, mainly maybe paper bags even, so if you ever see something you want to grab, you can protect your hands. But isn't that cool? I like it. I don't know. Am I going to eat it? I know it's edible, but maybe when it's bigger. And then of course I've got beans growing in here. I put a cage on top because the rabbits and squirrels were getting in there. So I just threw, I didn't even show you, but I've showed you in the other ones. I have green beans growing all over the yard. Maybe I'll go back and show you. All over my garden. And we haven't picked that many. Shame on me, but I haven't. So I take the seeds and I shove them all over, and I've got them growing here. I've got them growing everywhere, even in the front yard now. Okay, let's go to the truck bed. And here's the truck bed. Again, I am not doing too much right now, but I am going to set up at least 1 or 2 containers in the truck bed. So when I throw rotting leaves, kitchen scraps, whatever, it will help feed the truck bed. I'm leaving it right now. Like I said, I'm slowly working on it because I don't know what I'm going to put in it in the spring. But I'm leaving everything that's growing. I've got 3 different types of Swiss Chard growing in here. I've got the Swiss Chard that is just as red as can be. Look at that. It's just dark, dark, dark leaves. So I've got that one growing, and it's gone to seed. So it's dropping seeds all over. That's why they don't look that good. When they go to seed, they put all their energy into developing the seeds, and so the leaves get smaller. All the plants basically do that. But once they're done, then the leaves get bigger. So I'm not worried about it. See? But as you can, let me step back. I have a habit of using my camera as a pointer, and then you end up seeing the camera flying all over. So I have to remember not to do that. And then, of course, we've got the ones back there that are green with red veins. See? In the center, and that's the big one back there that it still has seeds on it. See on the top? And what's interesting is those are pods actually. They hold multiple seeds in there. That's why you can plant one pod and end up with a bunch of little plants. They kind of break open and grow. But that one is a green one with the red vein going down the center. And then of course, which is Gary's favorite, and actually mine too, it's very spinach-like, is the plain green one. So I've got green ones coming up. So I might concentrate on Swiss Chard in here, but I'll let the Swiss Chard take over in the center and put some more wood chips or things inside. But see, there's an empty space there. I could put a tub here without disturbing too much. Just trim the plant a little bit, and then there's a tub there. Then I am starting to put, leaves and stuff in. I put a hole. Actually, this one's got holes on the bottom and one on the side because I want to make sure it drains really, really well. And then, of course, the avocado tree. Look how big this thing is getting. It's beautiful and healthy. Will it grow avocados? Who knows? But that one came up from the compost that we threw in here, the kitchen scraps, and it's just growing beautifully. It's probably too late to really graft. At least you couldn't graft it from the trunk because the trunk is too big. You graft trees like this normally when they're babies, but I could do a branch if I wanted to here and there. We'll see later. I played around once. I didn't get anything because I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to grafting, but I'm learning. I think I've got one successful graft. I tried for fun on some apple trees, and I think I've got a successful graft on that. So I will check that out later and see how that goes. But right now I'm leaving the avocado tree. I know I have a viewer that said, please, please show the tree. They love their tree. Came up in this truck bed that was left with the house, tried to give it away, tried to get rid of it. Nobody wanted it. Now I wouldn't give it away. It's perfect to grow in. I grew so much in here. We grew so much squash, it was unbelievable. I might even put some more squash there because Gary's got the bent rebar already there. And then on the bottom here, The Swiss chard, of course, it falls to the ground and it grows, but the rabbits eat it. So I had these cages there with cut bottoms that Gary had made to cover things. And I threw one there, which is a green one with the red vein. And then, as you can see here, this is the red one. It's got red stalks and red leaves. You know, the kind of the green leaves are just full of red. So in case something ever happens, I've got these. And I can still harvest this, use it, but the rabbits can't get to it. They'll pull some leaves from the bottom, but they can't get to the trunk itself and hurt it. Oh, and there's a little pomegranate tree back there. We'll see. I am going to transform this too because Gary brought me a hose. So I'm thinking of changing this around. This is where the deer come through. So I have to think about this because I'll be sitting out here and the deer walk through, and we thought it was so beautiful seeing, you know, a couple deer walk through nicely. We didn't know they were going down the path to Gary's yard and eating up all his apples. They left him nothing. So I have to remember what I'm planning here, and hopefully the deer won't find this, so we'll see. But I'm not sure yet if I want to plant trees along here. It's quite shaded in the morning, but it gets good afternoon sun, or vegetables in tubs, or both. I'll have to see. Not sure, no hurry. It's not like I have to have the food now. We have more than enough food. So I'll see as time goes on what I'm going to do. Now let's swing around, walk over to the wall. Now we've got that green-red Swiss chard thing growing there. Came up from seed. Nothing is in here yet. That's just a tub I've been throwing things in. But look at this. This came up on its own. Loaded, loaded, loaded with eggplant. We've been picking eggplant, cooking this eggplant. Do I like one better than the other? Not really. I couldn't really tell. But this grows differently. It's full. So I do want to protect this. If anything ever touches this, I'll put some wire or something in the front or tool on this because we're eating a lot of eggplant now that I came up with a different, easier, faster method to cook it. The oven fried is good, but it does take time to put together. With the grilled, I can have that done in, let's say, 30 minutes to get the inside out for me. And if you don't have to do that, you could just slice it up, brush it with, like I said, oil and grill it. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Really nothing. These just came up. Oh, I've got a bean. See? Green bean. I'll walk through and drop a green bean in, and they just grow here. So whatever those beans are, those are the beans I want to grow in my yard because it likes the climate here. It wants to grow. Just drop it in, forget about it, and I've got green beans. That's what you want to concentrate for your garden. You find something that really wants to grow, that's what you want. You want what wants to grow there. This tub, nothing. You know, we're not going to grow squash right now. They're trying. I see them trying, but it's really the wrong time of the year. Had the plant been big and undamaged, yes, I was growing zucchini, I think last year that were a foot long. So 1 to 2 feet long. They were huge, but the plant trunk was really big and it wasn't damaged. This year, rabbits and squirrels got in. They chewed the center out of my big plants out over here. And by doing that, it was just struggling. So it never did, you know, set to grow now, this time of the year. Spring is easier, but now, no, it won't. It won't make a comeback. For winter, it won't make a comeback. So those plants will have to be removed. I'll show you in a minute and start over. Celery that came up from seed, more Swiss chard. I covered the red one because the rabbits were eating that red one, but not the red and green one. Isn't that interesting? Another Moringa Tree here. Look at that. And the birds hang out in here. The hummingbirds love the flowers. And even the little insect eaters come in here. And they'll find things on this too. All kinds of birds come on here. It's quiet right now. Everything got really quiet. That's kind of odd. More Swiss chard growing, full of tomatoes. I believe this is another brown berry I planted. I bought a tray of it. Not a tray, I bought a whole bunch of them when I went back. I bought separate ones. They had them. My nursery had a bunch of tomato plants on a table like half price because they weren't looking good. So I went through and bought a whole bunch of different varieties. And boy, I went back and got more brown berries they still had at the time because they grow so good. So don't wait for them to get too red. Sometimes they do get kind of red, but you can eat them when they're still in between and they're so good. So this is doing good. It just needs to be cleaned up soon. Another squash plant trying to grow, and it's even got a baby zucchini there. It might but it's so late in the season. Had it been a bigger plant than that, you know, yes, it might have been able to grow, but we'll see. Because if it makes it, and even if it's only that big, you can still use it and eat it. This is the one that got damaged. This is the one I'm going to have to pull out. See, last year, I think I had zucchini growing all along. And they were growing out here out of the bed that Gary built with wood. And they were taking off the whole length. And they were just growing massive, massive zucchini. We were picking zucchini in December. But because this one got so badly damaged, it can't really show you. See, they just chewed it. And then it just stopped growing. That's the end of it. It can't. It's true zucchini. So true zucchini doesn't leave that much. It leaves a little bit as it grows. Hybrid zucchini grows like a pumpkin and a just long vine. So if it would have gotten chewed at the end, if it was a hybrid or a pumpkin, it would grow a new shoot out. Zucchini tends to not grow as vigorously new shoots as hybrids do or pumpkin type squash. So I think that's it, and we'll see what happens what I do with the bathtub. Right now I'm just throwing stuff in there, using it basically for storage. All in all, everything is doing good. We'll see what happens as the weather really cools down, because they're saying we're going into a cool down soon. But right now, everything's doing really good. So with that, I think I made this too long again. Have a wonderful day. Like I said, with all the fires, and oh, my heart goes out to all of them. It's been a very trying week. Gary had me shut the TV off and told me to go to the store because it just was running 24/7 on the TVs, all the fires and the losses that people had, and it was so sad. And my friend has a horse ranch, and so far so good. She's okay. It's just so sad, incredibly sad. So with that, like I said, it's just hard to breathe. The air is really bad right now. Have a wonderful day, and I'll be back soon. And don't forget to eat what you grow. And let's see what it looks like December 1st. If things will be the same. It depends on how cold we get. Have a great day, and don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye.